Alright, there's a lot of political noise in Alberta lately about self-defense. Of course, you've heard the lines, Albertans shouldn't be charged for defending themselves, or prosecutors need to think twice before laying charges. Fun fact, they already do that. Now, it sounds bold, but it's legally wrong and it's dangerously misleading. So, let's walk through the actual law, and we're going to use Supreme Court of Canada precedents as well as legislation, not political slogans. Alright. Number one, the law of self-defense comes from Parliament through Section 34 of the Criminal Code. A provincial government cannot rewrite it, they cannot loosen it, they cannot redefine it, but they can certainly talk about it. Number two, self-defense in Canada is not the simple "I felt threatened" rule you're hearing from politicians. In the case of Kill, the case starts with what actually happened. Mr. Kill believed he was facing a life or death situation when he fired his shotgun. So, he believed that he was facing a life or death situation. Subjectively, he believed that an intruder had a firearm and that, again, he was in a situation where it was life or death and he fired a shotgun. But that was not enough to justify self-defense. The Supreme Court emphasized that reasonableness is not judged through the eyes of someone who is fearful, intoxicated, abnormally vigilant, or influenced by personal biases. And we'll get into why that was a factor that the Supreme Court considered for Mr. Kill. And it's a huge factor because self-defense is objective, not political, and not subjective. They also warned that courts must ignore irrational or prejudiced assumptions. The court states in that case, quite clearly using those words, that irrational fears could never acceptably inform an objectively reasonable perception of a threat. That is the exact opposite of the political messages that are being pumped out right now. It's that a homeowner's fear automatically justifies force, and that is not true. The court went even further. They explained that the accused's action and role, whether they escalated the situation, acted rashly, misunderstood what was happening, all of these factor. The accused in Kill thought the intruder had a gun, but the facts show this. After he shot the intruder, he determined that the intruder was in fact unarmed. And despite believing he was in danger, he still faced criminal charges. And in that case, when the police arrived, they arrested Mr. Kill and eventually charged him with second-degree murder. Why? Because self-defense is not automatic. It requires a full assessment of circumstances, including alternative options and whether the response was proportional. In Kill, the defense argued he acted reasonably because of his military training. They said his training taught him to respond proactively and instinctively to threats. But the Crown argued to the contrary. They said that he acted imprudently in going outside to confront the intruder rather than calling the police. Those are real issues the courts look at, not political messaging, and not whether a political party wants to pander to their base. So when politicians say things to you like, you won't be thrown in jail for defending yourself, remember, Mr. Kill was thrown in jail, he was arrested, he was charged, and he did go to trial for murder. All of that happened even though he genuinely believed he was about to be shot. So, the law protects reasonable actions, not every action taken out of fear. Here's the bottom line. Self-defense in Canada is a careful, objective, evidence-driven analysis that comes from the Criminal Code and the Supreme Court, not from provincial press conferences. So, if you want to know your legal rights, talk to a lawyer and get some legal advice. If you want some comforting slogans, then listen to the politicians. But just don't confuse one for the other, because only one will protect you in a court of law.